Today, we're going to take a look at your body's very own emergency response team. I'm talking about the elite squad that just springs into action at the first sign of trouble. We're talking about acute inflammation. You've all been there, right? You get this tiny little paper cut, and all of a sudden it becomes this puffy, warm, red area. It almost seems like a total overreaction, doesn't it? But really, it's a perfectly coordinated, high-stakes rescue mission happening right there, right under your skin. So what kicks this whole process off? Well, just like a 911 call, it takes a very specific kind of threat to sound the body's internal alarm. This response is really reserved for true emergencies.
And that alarm, that triggers what's officially known as acute inflammation. Now, the key words to focus on here are immediate and early. This isn't some slow burn process. This is a rapid deployment. The goal is super simple. Get the first responders, we're talking fluid, proteins, and specialized cells, to the site of injury as fast as humanly possible.
And the kinds of emergencies that can trigger this response, they're actually pretty varied. It could be an infection, from bacteria or a virus. It might be physical damage, like a burn or that paper cut we were just talking about. Heck, even a tiny splinter is treated like a foreign invader that has to be dealt with and dealt with now. The body sees all of these as urgent threats that need an immediate and forceful response.
So, when this whole response team is dispatched, how do we even know they're on their way? Well, they don't exactly show up quietly. They arrive with, let's call them, sirens and flashing lights that we can actually see and feel right on the surface.
These are the 5 classic or cardinal signs of inflammation. And you know what? Each one tells a part of the story. So that redness and heat you feel, that's because the blood vessels are widening to rush responders to the scene, like opening up all lanes on a highway. The swelling? That comes from those same vessels becoming a little leaky, kind of creating exit points for the rescue crew to get out. The pain? Well, that's a direct result of chemical alarms going off and irritating your nerves. And when you put it all together, all that swelling and pain can cause a temporary loss of function, which is really just your body's way of saying, hey, stay still, we're working here. Every single sign has a purpose.
Okay, now for the really cool part. Let's actually see this response in action. We're going to zoom all the way in and follow a single first responder, a type of white blood cell called a neutrophil, as it leaves the bloodstream and journeys right into the heart of the battle.
All right, so under normal conditions, your bloodstream is just like a fast-moving highway. You've got cells zooming along in the central lanes. But the moment an inflammatory signal goes out, everything changes. The blood flow slows to a crawl, a state that's called stasis. And this is totally deliberate. It's like forcing traffic to slow down so the emergency vehicles, our neutrophils, can get over to the shoulder right next to the exit ramps in the vessel wall.
So once it's at the edge of the vessel, the neutrophil's mission really begins. First, it starts kind of tumbling and rolling along the vessel wall, almost like it's scanning for the right exit. Then, it sticks. That's adhesion. It locks on firmly to the perfect spot. From there, it does this incredible thing called transmigration. It literally changes shape to squeeze through the vessel wall and get into the damaged tissue. Then, guided by a chemical trail, it zeroes in on the target. And when it arrives, it just neutralizes the threat by engulfing and destroying it, a process called phagocytosis. Pretty amazing.
But how does the cell even know where to go? I mean, it's not just wandering around blindly. It's following a kind of chemical GPS. See, bacteria and our own damaged tissues, they release these signals that create a trail, like breadcrumbs. The neutrophil just follows this trail, moving toward wherever the chemical concentration is strongest, which leads it to the emergency with absolute pinpoint accuracy.
So, after the alarm has been silenced and the bad guys have been cleared out, what happens next? The emergency is over, yeah, but now the site needs to be cleaned up and assessed for damage. The story isn't quite finished yet.
There are really 3 main ways this whole thing can end. The best case scenario, and thankfully the most likely one, is complete resolution. The mess gets cleaned up, the tissue goes right back to normal, no questions asked. Awesome. Now, if the damage was a bit more severe, the body might have to patch it up with a scar. That's a process called fibrosis. But sometimes, if the trigger just isn't removed, the battle can drag on, shifting from this short, intense fight to a long, drawn-out war we call chronic inflammation.
So, if you're going to take away one thing, it's this. Acute inflammation is designed to be a hero's cameo. It is fast, it is intense, it's led by those neutrophil shock troops, and its entire purpose is to get in, eliminate the threat, and kickstart the whole healing process. It's an absolutely fundamental process for our survival.
And that, right there, brings us to a final thought. We've seen just how vital and heroic this rapid response really is.
But what happens when the fight just doesn't end? What happens when this process, which is designed to protect us, actually becomes the problem itself? Well, that's a question for another time.